Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Energy RX. I'm Christine Paschal, and I am beyond delighted to introduce you to my next guest. I've listened to several of her books, and I have learned so much from her. And so I was obviously delighted when she agreed to come on and have this conversation. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Tina is a fourth generation intuitive medium and internationally considered an expert in medical intuition and mediumship. She is a first place award winning author and instructor. She teaches 4 courses: Become a Medical Intuitive Practitioner, Advanced Medical Intuition for Healing Others, and Become a Medium Who Heals the Deceased. She has taught courses all over the globe, in many, many places. She is also a faculty member for multiple spiritual centers in the U.S. Tina has worked in the mental health field as a registered nurse with a national board specialty certification in mental health nursing. She is a Gestalt trained mental health counselor, graduating from the Gestalt Institute in 1997. She holds a BA in communication and management. She received her certification in clinical hypnotherapy and specialized in past life regressions. She also was certified through the Michael Newton Institute for Life Between Life Regression. She received her first Reiki attunement and then went on to receive the master's degree teacher level. She taught Reiki for over 10 years. All of Tina's medical intuition books both won first place gold awards or silver awards, and they're all selling in over 45 countries. She is the author of Become a Medical Intuitive, Advanced Medical Intuition, Be Your Own Medical Intuitive, The Reiki Teacher's Manual, and Reiki and Your Intuition. Her newest book, which I'm excited to read, is Healing Ghosts, Haunted Places, and Non-Human Beings, which is a training manual to be an extraordinary healing medium. Tina now focuses her time teaching medical intuition and mediumship all around the globe and in private mentoring sessions. You can find her at her website, which is www.tina.zion.com. Tina, I mean, you have the most incredible resume behind you.
Really?
You've done a lot. And I have a million questions to ask you, but we're going to see
Good.
where this whole conversation goes. But I love that you have this background also in as a registered nurse and this clinical side, because I do feel that that can give some credibility to for many people who are unsure, is this real or not real? And how long did
Mhm.
you practice nursing for?
Well, I still am a licensed registered nurse, so for for a long time, decades and decades and decades. But you know what that does? That does give me some credibility, especially with medical people, because you know who's coming to my courses a lot are physicians now, and I love that, and nurses of all levels, and nurse practitioners and PAs and my goodness, just all kinds of medical people, even physical therapists and respiratory therapists. And so I think that's very special because, you know, that's the beginning of that bridging
Absolutely.
medical and the spiritual. Yeah.
What about I would guess that you're also having a lot of mental health therapists coming in. Are you seeing
Oh, yeah.
that as well? I mean, in my practice, I have a lot of people. I have a pretty big clientele list of therapists, and because I do energy healing also, but they don't talk about it in their practice. But I see more and more therapists who really want to understand this and learn more. And so they utilize it in their practices, but they just don't talk about it as much. Are you finding that?
Very, very, very much. And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually just finished speaking with someone who is a mental health counselor on the East Coast of the US. And she is just very gently incorporating, you know, the non-physical and her client's spiritual life into her counseling. And so, see, there again, there's that blending because we're not just a physical body. We are not.
Yeah. And so you're finding that Western medicine doctors are beginning to be open to this understanding that we're more than just this mechanical model of our body, that healing can happen on many dimensions.
Well, you know what? The other thing that they're telling me, though, too, is they'll say, I just know things as I touch the doorknob to go into an exam room. I'm just getting bits about information about who's in that room. And before I even look at their chart, I'll just have this sense of what's going on with them or the potential diagnosis. So then they say, how am I doing that? And why am I doing that? And is that intuition? And they're beginning to get fascinated because they're noticing their selves and their own abilities because it's a natural ability if we pay attention to it.
Okay, so are these people who have gone through your courses that are coming to you, or they're maybe starting to get this and then they're reaching out like, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. I need to develop this."
Yes, they're already doing it, and that's what intrigues them because of their accuracy, and they want to learn how to do it more. So first they say, what is going on, and is this okay, and why am I doing this? And then I want to do it even more. That's what they say.
Okay, that's amazing. I love that. It kind of reminds me of, we'll talk about mediumship too. When I was a child, I would talk to people who had died, and then I kind of forgot. I thought I'm crazy. Like it was all in my head. I know you're fourth generation, so you have a very different experience with this because this was just the norm, how you grew up. But for some people, it that was not a conversation happening at all. But I started having this flood of information, like, and people coming in, and I thought, I don't know what to do with this. Should I be saying something? They're wanting to talk. Is this okay? Is this not okay? And so I started having to develop my mediumship because I didn't understand what to do with it. So I would imagine there are physicians who have the same kind of experience where this information's flooding in, but you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what you're describing though is you weren't really afraid. I don't hear that anyway. And you knew it was real. And children are all doing this until they're about 6 years old, and then they get more involved and go to school and more involved with the physical world. Then it kind of gets stomped out of them sometimes by teachers, by family members, you're just making those things up. But all children are really, they just came from the world of the non-physical, before birth. And so they remember these things. And look at that's a beautiful description you're giving. They remember things until they get so busy with physical life, and then they tend to forget.
Well, you were so lucky that you had those open doors. If you could talk, I mean, there's very few people that I've spoken to that are a fourth generation. So this is in your lineage. Could you just talk a little bit about what it was like growing up in a house where this was the norm?
First of all, what I would say about that, and I always say this in all of my courses, we did not have a gift, because a lot of people out there teaching, they say, well, they have this special gift. But really, it's not a gift, it's a very natural ability. So when it came down, I spent a long time with lots of time with my great grandmother. And she was in a secret order of the Rosicrucians. And I remember she passed on when I was about 11. And I remember that she had stacks and stacks and stacks of the Rosicrucian information. And it was a secret order back then. So I don't know what it took for her to be part of that. But she was very, very accurate medium and part of the secret order. And so we would go over there, and she would babysit for us. And she would make homemade donuts, first of all. But the other thing that she would do is she would give us a little bit of coffee. And I know she'd make it in that percolator that they don't make anymore, I don't think. And you could see it perking up in this glass little knob at the top. But what she was really doing, she mostly was milk, but she would give us some. And then she was drying the grounds. And we just thought it was natural, my sister and I. And when the grounds dried in the bottom of the cup, she said, okay, Lana, let's look at our coffee grounds and let's see what's going on in your life. well, little kids would love that. And she says,
Absolutely.
"Oh, Tina, you're going to live in the mountains." And I was in the Midwest, so it was all cornfields, And she said, "Oh, no, you're going to live in the mountains." And she would that's how it began. That natural naturalness on both my mother's side and my father's side were part of the spiritual church
Is that how they met, or is that just that happened to be?
my parents know they met in high school when I think they were together since they were 14, but it was just natural. See, we don't have a gift. Everyone just thought, well, of course you were seeing deceased people. What did they say to you? What were they dressed like? So we just all talked about it. And when we get together for holidays, we still will talk about it. Who has seen Grandma Marie lately? And that's a favorite of
You tell
ours.
stories about who's seen them. So for the people who don't know, I'm pretty familiar with the spiritualist churches in the UK, which part of their religion is to during their service, the pastors or are also mediums, and so they give readings during the church service for the audience. Is that the same kind of church service that your parents were part of?
Yes, very much
Okay.
so, very much so. But my family, both sides of my family too, were also members of the Lutheran Church. So on Sunday they go to the Lutheran Church, and on Thursday evenings they would go to the Spirituals Church. So it wasn't an either or with them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's really pretty amazing. There's not many people from a family like yours where on both sides you have this and there's a lineage of it. So yes, we all have these abilities, and I love that you teach that. But for that to be fostered from such a young age within you is really like a beautiful gift.
That might be the gift. Yes, I would agree with that. But the ability is not a gift. It's there for all of us.
I know. And I just love that you said that. I feel the same thing. And as you teach mediumship, you teach medical intuition. So you see people develop, you see how they can go from not believing that they can do it to having incredible communication and incredible information come in. So that must be such a joy for you to watch the growth of somebody through that journey.
Well, there's a moment actually coming up as you say that I teach either 5-day courses or 3-day courses. And I just finished in New York teaching. And this one woman was actually, bless her heart, she came, but she was terrified the whole time. And so, I would just work with her a little bit more than some of the others. And I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. This isn't, I don't know how to do this. By the third day, she was in the 3-day course. By the third day, she said, I just did this in a practice session. I'm getting goosebumps telling you. He said, I'm doing it. I said, you're doing it. Yes, because it's natural. You just had to get through your worries and your fears. And
Would you say that also in my own development, that confidence is a really important part of that, like just the belief that you can do it. And I've worked with that with myself. I just got back from I go to the Arthur Findlay College, if you've heard of the Arthur Findlay College in the UK.
yes, yes, of course.
And I just got back. I just spent a week there. And it was the first week that I was there that I walked in and I started giving readings that I could say, I can do this. Like I am a medium. It was until then, and I've really studied so intensively online for years, for several years now, and in person and so much. And I just didn't have the confidence. And once that piece, like, no, I know I really can do this. So many
Yeah.
doors opened up. It became so much easier once I just could actually believe that that I could do it.
Mhm. She came from tears in the bathroom to on the morning of the third day. She was just amazed. And so you speaking about this just reminded me of her and what a great example. And now you're the example too for others.
I know. So I'm just going to say it's that just we don't believe that we're worthy, or we don't believe that we could
Mhm.
possibly do something like this. It can seem just so like, oh, other people can do this, but not me. It was such a breakthrough moment. I'm going to give you, I had this aha moment, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the same thing. So when I was really young, I started kindergarten. I was 4 and I was little, and my parents had gone through a divorce. And so there was probably some emotional turmoil. And I started kindergarten. And I remember there was this girl, and I won't say her name, but I know exactly who she is. And there was a whiteboard, and she was doing some math problems. And she was like 7 plus 2 and 4 plus 5. And to me, that was like deciphering hieroglyphics. And I was like, wow, she is so smart. She can do this. She's so smart. I'm I'm dumb. I can't do I don't know what 7 plus 2 means. And she was probably older than me, and like maybe had been a preschool where she learned some of those things. But I made this decision that I was bad at math because I didn't know that. And so I was a
Oh,
terrible math student, kind of until I still don't love math. Let me get that out of the way.
me neither.
But I'm convinced that it was my belief that I couldn't do it, that I made a snap decision at 4 years old that someone else was smart, that I wasn't smart, and that she had some magical ability to do something that I didn't. And I realized at some point in this mediumship journey, I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking at these other people who are giving this incredible evidence. And I'm like, well, look how amazing. Look at this evidence, these things they're getting. I can't do that. And then I just thought, I'm doing the same thing exactly as an adult, as a 53-year-old woman, that I did as a 4-year-old woman or child. And so that helped me to kind of rearrange it. I'm like, of course you could add 7 plus 2. You just, no one had taught you to do it. And if you had had the confidence, you probably would have been a perfectly fine math student. So I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to learn from math, and I'm not going to bring that into this. And I would say that for every other person listening to this episode right now, it is your belief
Please,
system around it.
please, please. That you just offered the most beautiful example of how we get in our way, and especially about becoming a medium or becoming a medical intuitive and being terrified. And because she was also saying, like you, everybody around me is just doing this and popping open. And so see, she was doing the same thing. So that's a beautiful example you just shared.
Well, thank you. It was such an aha of I'm doing it.
Yes.
I'm doing it again. I'm not, and I'm going to learn, and I'm not going to do that. So one thing that I understand mediumship. Um, and I've listened to some of your books on medical intuition. I haven't brought that into my practice yet. I probably need to come and study in person a little bit with you. I would love to hear about your journey into medical intuition. I know that it was in Reiki, how this, because you were already wide open, but how the medical, you've written so many books about it, you teach so much about it, how this developed, how you became able to do this incredible work.
Well, first of all, it was quite a shock, and I love telling people and sharing this about this particular moment because I, as a Reiki practitioner, was doing Reiki sessions. Oh my goodness, quite a few every week, and and people were saying, "Oh, I feel so much better" and everything. And it was a hands-on healing, and all of a sudden one day, and I love saying this too, that she was, I believe, 74 years old, and she was a Catholic nun. And she came to me for Reiki,
Reiki.
which was kind of surprising in and of itself. So I was, doing my usual thing with the hands on from head to toe and things like that. And I suddenly, in my mind's eye, although I was looking in, suddenly I was looking inside of her body, and I was perceiving in my mind's eye. And I thought, what is going on? What am I doing? What am I doing? And it felt like I was zooming around inside of her body. And I mean zooming around like a little spaceship, like I was in a little spaceship is what it seemed like. I was going up this way and then I went that way and then went down. And what I was doing is I was being guided to perceive inside of her colon and large intestine. And so for non-medical people, our colon, it comes up on our left side, crosses over there by our belly button, or go left side. Yeah, I said left side, crosses over and then goes downward on our right side. It came to a screeching halt. Now I wasn't in charge of any of this, believe me. And there were, I think, 5 black polyps, and I heard the word cancer. And I'll tell your listeners, if you're not licensed anywhere in the world to diagnose anyone, absolutely don't do that, because that's what will get you into trouble
Yeah.
about this immediately. But what we intuitives can do, and we medical intuitives can do, is we can describe where, and especially location, where we are perceiving something, and describe what it looks like. That's all. And so all I did was I said, there's a darkened place here in your right side of your large intestine. And it just doesn't look like the bright and shiny like the rest of you. In fact, it feels bulky, because I'm telling her real things,
Mhm.
other things that I was noticing, as long as it wasn't a diagnosis. And I said, I want you to go home or where you're going right now and call your physician, and I want you to insist on a colonoscopy. She goes, okay. And bless her heart, she did. And it showed that she had 5 very cancerous polyps. And so she had the surgery. And I know, and she knows, because she kept telling me, she said, it saved her life. I think she was like 72 or 74 then. She lived into her late 80s, but had she not had that cancer taken care of, she probably wouldn't have made it very long.
Wow, this is incredible. So that was the first time. And so you had that incredible spirit is so intelligent also with how I think they work with you because she did
Yes.
take your advice. It was correct. You got the validation. So that gave you the confidence to trust yourself of the things that you're seeing.
Yes, yes, because it was, yes, right away.
Yeah.
I received it accurately and I
Yep.
got confirmation. So yes, right away. And that just started it. So I always say that for me at least, Reiki opened that door. And it doesn't necessarily mean everybody has to go out and be a Reiki practitioner, but for me, that's the moment that it started. And see, it's so embedded in my head still. And back then, there wasn't even a term medical intuition. So I didn't know what it was. I was just seeing inside of people's body. And then I was seeing inside of everyone's body after that.
What do you mean? Do you mean like all of the people who you would work with, or can you just, if you're walking down the street, you see people
No, in the Reiki
in the Reiki,
sessions,
in the Reiki
I was
session?
seeing inside. Yes. In fact, that brings up a very important thing I want to mention, always mention, is that I never do this, and I teach this too, never do this without permission. Never go, just in the grocery store poking around looking inside of people's body, because that's very invasive, because this is very real. So I only do this with permission.
Do you feel like, as I know with the healing work that I do, or with mediumship, that there's kind of a frequency that you're aligning with in a way. And so when you're out in your regular world, you're not working with that same frequency. And so it's not like you're seeing people who have died or seeing psychic hits about people or seeing things. It's just, for me, it's a very normal experience. Maybe you'll have a feeling about something, but when you're out at the grocery store, do you feel like you have a normal human experience in the grocery store, or do you feel something different?
No one's ever asked me that question. I love this. No one's ever asked me this. What I would say to that is that you and I and everyone else will always pick up information as we just pass someone in the grocery store. We will just pick up information. We're not trying to pick it up, but we will know things that most people don't know as they're looking at the carrots in the vegetable
Sure.
section. And we will just know things. And I'm not prying, but we're literally walking into sometimes or past our energy field. And so that's information is just everywhere. But we're not prying. It's a big difference. And we're not doing it purposely. But yeah, we will just know things. And I think that's what you're saying.
But you're also you're like you're in there like you're looking at your carrots. You're not having an out of you're not having, an out of body. You're not seeing orbs and other things floating around and, Grandpa Joe coming around looking at the celery or something else. You're having a you have
And
inform
I do see those
you do
things.
see
Yes, I do.
you
Yes,
do.
yes.
Okay, because we'll talk about your next book. We talked about haunted places and healing. So we're going to come back to that. I'm so excited about this new book, but I want people to understand your work and who you are also. So I do think it's really important. I love that what you're saying is that for anyone out there that there really is integrity with this kind of work,
Oh,
and that means
please.
not invading anyone else's personal space. And I don't even know that you can do healing for someone else who doesn't want it, because I do think there needs to be an agreement between you. So it's even if you're trying to do something, I mean, you can say a prayer for somebody. I mean, I think that's perfectly fine to say a prayer or good intention, but to really try to go in and do Reiki on someone who doesn't have, you don't have their permission. It's
No,
not an
that's
integrity.
invasive.
It's invasive.
Yes, no, that's invasive. I never do this without permission, never, ever. And I love emphasizing this on your show here too, because I emphasize it in my courses as well.
Okay, that's great. Are there some other things in your courses that you do that are important? So someone wanted to come and sign up for a class. What are some other key points that are really important to you with how people work or what they would understand?
Well, I don't know, it depends on the course.
Okay.
But I really, really emphasize being ethical, not being invasive, not misusing our abilities, and really honoring. Only do this in the most honorable way because over the years, and you probably have too, as a medium, I have seen people, oh my goodness, all kinds of stories about that, misuse this ability. I can tell you a story if
Yeah,
I may.
absolutely.
I teach people how to astral project and remote view, which is really what we're doing. We're stretching out there to another person. We're observing things like that. And this one student in my class, she was so excited about this that after class, after one day of the class, she astral projected to her friend. Now she lives in the east coast of the US, the student did. And she astral projected to her friend, I think in the West, Montana or someplace like that. And then she saw her girlfriend sitting on the couch in her pajamas, eating a big bowl of popcorn, watching the television, and her husband was out in the kitchen cooking something on the stove in his pajamas. And so she called up her friend and said, I'm seeing you do this and this and this and this, and your husband's in the kitchen and doing this. And her friend on the telephone said, did you fly here? You just flew here and you didn't tell me. Are you outside? You're outside looking in the window, aren't you? And the student said, no, I astral projected. It ruined their friendship because that was invasive. See, she was with her husband. Thank goodness they were just cooking and eating popcorn. You know, that could go all kind of ways. Makes us both laugh though. And it demolished because see, it
Wow.
was invading someone's privacy, their life, their home. And but it's my best example that I
Oh. And it makes
have.
someone feel unsafe. They think, wow, if you could come in here, I mean, how that may affect that person of never feeling like always feeling that someone could be watching them somehow. That's a really big deal.
Well, and I told this student since then many, many times really that I regret that it happened. I hope she learned from it, but it is the best teaching moment I could ever use. That event that happened, it is the best teaching moment about how invasive we're very powerful and very capable of doing all kinds of things, but my goodness, do it with ethics and responsibility,
Okay, so
not
with
invade.
with that, now people that hear this may be a little afraid, like, oh my gosh, I have people who could be learning this skill. These people that are learning this more and more who could be coming and spying on me in my house. Would you say that there is a practice that people could have to shield their home If you were worried, if someone's listening and think, oh my gosh, I don't want someone popping into my house, is there a way someone could shield their space so that people couldn't astral project in?
Well, I never want my stories to scare people. I hope that they're more
Sure.
teaching, but not terrifying everybody. But you have a really good point. Now, I always ask people not to put a thing around ourselves or thing over our property because the more often we create that thing around us or our property, it becomes more and more dense and more thick. And so it not only keeps the negative out, but it gets so dense it won't let the positive in. So I do it in more of I teach more, we use the property more in an expanded way of everything in my property is very holy, it's very precious, there's no invasion, that kind of thing, rather than building
I'm
a thing
wall,
around it.
a
A
dome
wall.
around your property. One of the things
Yes.
I do
Yes.
periodically, I do feel this the need to sort of put not a shield, but a porous barrier, I guess I would say, and just invite and allow the beings that are here for my family's highest good is one of the,
Yes.
so it needs to be a being that is here for our highest good to come into the space. So that's one of the things that
Yeah, well, that's not putting a thing around you, though. That's asking for protection from the divine and sacred. I always go and only work with the divine and sacred. Because those two words kind of rule out lower level guides, I guess. Well, I don't guess, I know. But yes, that's beautiful. See, you didn't, in your example, you didn't put a thing around you
right.
in here.
Yeah, no, no,
Mhm.
no, 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 not a thing. It was just there's a lot of we have, three kids and people and a lot of like stuff happening. And every once in a while I just like kind of feel the need to I need to elevate. The frequency needs to be
Mhm.
elevated and sort of
Yes.
recommit to just the beings that are here for our highest good. Is
It's like glowing from the inside outward. That is how I would put it. And so our property glows from the inside of our
Mhm.
property outward, and the negativity can't get through it.
Yeah. Okay. That's a
Yeah.
great story and a great I love that.
We took the scare out of it for everybody.
Poor friend. It's an amazing teaching story. An amazing teaching. I'm glad that she just saw the popcorn. That's great.
Yes, thank goodness. Yes.
Okay, so you had this incredible experience working with a nun of all people. So that's, I mean, just I always marvel at just the wisdom of spirit of how we learn and grow and transform. We're so guided in this such in a beautiful way. And so you got the confirmation that what you saw was correct. I also really love one of the things you're saying, and I think this is so important that you can't diagnose. Like you didn't say, oh, I think you may have cancer, which could cause incredible fear and terror. I'm
Wow.
noticing some density. I'm noticing something dark. You really should get a colonoscopy because I know in the UK, for example, like medical intuition is like, well, at least through the SNU, which is the Spiritualist National Union, they're very strict. They won't let anyone do anything like this because of the legalities. So if
Mhm.
you begin this journey, it is so critically important to not say things to people that are going to cause terror and fear.
Never, 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 never. Because what happens when we're afraid? What do? We clamp down and protect ourselves, and then we really can't get in to help them if we scare people.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question for you. And
Yeah.
that is, okay, someone may have cancer, you're seeing polyps, but when you see something, do you ever work with understanding? Because typically I would say that there is an emotional component to something that may be happening. Do you ever work with the emotional component underneath an illness?
What I would say to that is what I have found, because I've been doing it for decades now, that there are thoughts and emotions. We have the thoughts first that create the emotions are underneath everything. For example, someone who has physical muscle pain really means that they are emotionally in pain. And our body has to sense it, feel it, live it, especially when we haven't taken care of that emotion or learned from the emotion. And then wherever, if we'll stick with pain for the simple example, wherever the pain is at in our human body gives another level of information. So I do that in my intro course to become a medical intuitive practitioner. We talk about that in different body sections and what different areas of our body mean.
So if someone goes through your course and they learn this, do they learn how to do healing for those emotional components of potentially an illness or prevent an illness from happening by releasing an emotion before it turns into an illness?
Yes, and learning about the emotion too, learning about it and when did it start? That's very, very key in healing is, okay, when did this start? It could have started when we were 3 years old. It could have started 10 lifetimes ago. It could have started, you know,
Well,
and
that's fascinating because you also have this background in past life regression. So, I don't know if that comes in at all. So what we're talking about is, okay, did you have something, an illness or something happening? Is that from just this lifetime and from emotions that are traumas that have been stored and buried within your body, your emotional field? you know, or is it potential? This is a bleed over residue from past life
yes,
experiences that are still held because you're a soul, you're a being, you're an energy. So that being,
and, and we're eternal. Yes,
and we're eternal. Thank you. We are
eternal.
eternal. So we
Yeah.
have these imprints that can still be stored within our field. So how do you determine if this is not coming from this lifetime? It makes me think of Brian Weiss's Life Between Lives, and he did so much healing from past life regressions. Is that something that you work on in your courses of figuring out where it came from?
Well, another person I would actually bring up too for your viewers is Michael Newton. And he was quite famous as well. And he only worked with people who were already hypnotherapists and already doing past life regressions. And then he's taught people how to do life between life regressions. And so he would do the past life stuff, but he also kept having clients just end up in space, so to speak, without being here on Earth. And that led him to learning all about our life in the spirit realm in between lives on Earth.
I am
So
fascinated. I am fascinated by that. I'm fascinated.
Michael Newton. So I studied with him. He was doing his last class. He's passed on now in the Netherlands. And so I went to the Netherlands and trained. And he would only take people that were already past life regressionists
Okay.
to train them to do this. So I did that for a long time too. And that really led even another step towards what I do now. That was a step that led me to, working with the nun, with her colon.
So you did that before, you were doing that even before working with the medical intuition.
Well, no, worked with her first, but that led me to, I
Oh,
was in
okay.
a bookstore and literally this book shined out more than all the rest in the
Yeah.
bookstore.
Yeah.
And it was Michael Newton's first book.
Okay.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. That's how it works.
That's
A
how it
book,
works.
that's how it
Yes,
works. And it's paying attention to these signs. It's trusting that you are being divinely guided. A book will, like I've heard books will fall off a shelf or it just
literally.
catches your eye. You're drawn to
Literally.
it and there's something there for you. So all of a sudden, this book started glowing. It was Michael Newton, and that was your next piece.
And it was amazing. And I saw it my own life as I read because there was case after case after case in his book. It's what was it? Memories of the Afterlife, I think was his first book. And it was very, very helpful for my own trials and tribulations with people, in my family and people that I knew and stuff. So that in itself was very, very healing. So I'd recommend that as well
Well, I'm
to your,
definitely going to look at that book as well as your
yes,
newest book.
please.
I'm going to look at that. I had this incredible, I mean, I think we all do on some level, insatiable curiosity for the beyond. I mean, like on it, like it's an insatiable curiosity. And my grandmother had passed over, and I remember having, it was a dream, but not a dream. It was like the space in between right before waking up. And was sitting in with my grandfather, her husband, in a very humble room. And I was waiting at the edge of my seat on this couch. And I knew she was getting ready to come in. And I knew she was going to tell me the secret of like, not the universe, but kind of the afterlife. She was going to come and tell me the secret. And it was like Christmas morning times 100. Like, I'm getting ready to find this out. And she walks in and, she died in her 80s. She was probably in her 50s, the way she showed herself. And she came and sat down and she said to me, she looked at me, and this is all she said. She said, "There's no real food here." And that was
Well,
it.
I didn't even expect that.
No, there's no real food here. And I sat up in bed, not even having been like, not like I went from being there to I sat up and I was like, what? That's the secret? What does she mean? There's no real food. I mean, it
Oh,
was like
that's fun.
I was flabbergasted, but as I sat with it, more and more and more, I understood the profound wisdom of it. Here on earth, it's like juicy and raw and real. You can like go have this fabulous Italian spaghetti dinner and wine. It's material, it's magnetized here. And it's more etheric there in a way. So you're not having that same. And so there's such a, I think what she was saying is there's such a beauty in where you are. Like enjoy this like juiciness of life. Like this is
Oh,
beautiful, but where you are is beautiful too. So it was a beautiful, profound message, but it took me a while to like think that's what she came to tell me.
I love that. That's a great story. That is a great story. But what's really special is what you really truly received from her very few words about it.
Yeah, that was it. There's no real food here. 5 words.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And
Anyhow,
I always say to people that really I think what I teach truly just bottom line is kind of like, there's no food here, is I really think I just teach people how to notice the very, very subtle in our physical world. I really, if I boiled it down to the most like your grandma did, then I think I just help people notice the very subtle. And that's exactly what you did with her.
yeah. Well, and there's so, don't you find that there's so much like the signs and synchronicities of this connection and collaboration that we have with this force or unseen world or guides. There's so many words we could use to insert here, but it's so profound when you start paying attention and trusting it.
Pay attention and notice.
Yeah, the
And
noticing of
that's
it. And it gets to be such a fun experience. I'll tell you, I just had a very funny experience of exactly this. So I said I went to the Arthur Findlay College. And so before going to the UK, and I went with a friend of mine. And the week before, we were going to Bath and Glastonbury to have sort of a week and soak in the energies and all of those things. It was amazing. And I had booked an Airbnb in Glastonbury. And I said, do you need my credit card? And they said, no, 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 it'll be fine. So I was like, I didn't get any kind of confirmation. And a few days before, I said, hey, just making sure that that we have a room. Should I give you a credit card? Nothing. And so I said to my friend, I said, maybe we need to look for another place because I'm not hearing anything from them. So I got online and I found two places. And one of them had one room. Um, the rooms were all like goddess rooms. And one of the rooms was named Rhiannon. And my friend, she loves Stevie Nicks, and her favorite song is Rhiannon. And she said we have to stay there because there's a Rhiannon room. And I said, really? Because that room, it has a double bed, and if you've been to the UK, a bed means essentially a single. And so their beds are
yes.
smaller. I said, are you sure? Because this could be a very tight bed we're sharing. She's like, I'm sure that is it. I said, okay, if we need to sleep in a single bed, we can do that. And so I booked it. It was the most magical bed and breakfast By the way, our bed was like a double enormous king. Like they had misset it.
Oh.
And every room
Mhm.
was a goddess room. Incense was burning. The smoke was like
Oh.
everyone in there was so spiritual. Like I'm definitely going back. I'm going to give them a shout out. St. Anne's Bed and Breakfast in Glastonbury. I'm not going to gatekeep this. It was magical. And it's at kind of the bottom of the tour in a way. There's just no buildings between. So you have this energy from the Chalice Wells and the tour just flowing right down into it. But so again, she was so confident. No, it said Rhiannon, that's where we should be, even though it didn't make sense. Even though I was like, we may be sharing a single bed, but she knew.
See, that's a beautiful story. That's just beautiful. And that's how it works.
Yeah, and trusting it too. I know you've talked about working with guides and beings. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. What I noticed is, and I would say this is for almost all people, which is kind of saying a lot, that we think that anybody in the spirit realm that hangs out around us and says they are a guide, we just accept that. But what happened to me, and this was only, gosh, even though I've been doing this for decades,
Yeah.
I'd say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I'm just guessing. I was bombarded with two words: divine, sacred, sacred, divine, divine, sacred, divine, sacred. I would wake up in the night what? Because I heard divine and sacred. And I'd be driving down the road, divine and sacred, divine and sacred. I said, all right. What, tell me now. Use the word now a lot when you talk with non-physical beings
Okay.
because they're real airy-fairy about time, but they all get the word now. So I said, tell me now, why are you bombarding me with these words? And what I got basically was only work with the divine and sacred. And I'm telling you, I was doing very well in my intuitive world here and teaching others and everything. I dismissed all my lower level guides. I have very detailed steps about how to get the divine and sacred and assure that they're divine and sacred. And I'm telling you, has, there is no description of how it opened up realms and worlds for me. And so that's one of the main things I teach people is, my little grandma Marie, she's my dear, dear grandma. And she was the daughter of the older great grandmother. So
And with
here
the
comes
coffee
the
grounds.
coffee
Okay.
grounds. Yeah. But this was her daughter, my grandma. And she is always with me. She's my personal helper, that kind of thing. I would never work with her as a guide for a client because she's a deceased person. If I fall over dead tonight, I'm a deceased person. I won't be divine and sacred either, because it's really, really a super, super duper high level. That made unbelievable difference in my world, in my life, in everything when I decided only to work with them.
Wow. And so when you have clients come in, or not clients, when you have students come in, you teach them protocols for sort of releasing guides that thanking them for the help they've given, but really connecting with for their
Absolutely.
work, with the work that they're doing, to connecting with the guides who can bring in like the highest frequencies of the divine sacred.
Never tell anybody they have to get rid of the guides that they're aware of. Who am I to say to get rid of them? But make sure that you're working for yourself. And if you have clients, only with the divine and sacred. I don't ask anybody to get rid of anybody.
With the work that they're doing when they're doing healing work and
Please,
intuition,
yes,
working with those
it'll
guys.
it will make a massive difference in your accuracy. My accuracy was just amazing. Now, what I do need to add to this is because I'm so busy, I stopped seeing people on an individual level probably a year or more ago because I teach so much now. So,
Well, I'm aware of that because I've sent you a few emails, and when you send her an email, you get an immediate response back saying, "I'm so sorry, I no longer take personal clients."
something had to go.
So you had to cut that.
I did.
So you don't do, I mean, you can only do so much. You have so many hours in your day, and you also have a life to live.
Yes. So I am working with groups, in my courses and things like that. And I offer group mentoring. I've done it a couple different times now, just on Zoom, because Zoom
Mhm.
has opened up the whole world.
Yeah,
I see
absolutely.
Zoom is very positive, actually, because I've been able to tap in with more people because of it. So, yes.
Yeah, I
So
think
that's what I teach.
that's a huge gift of COVID. It closed the world down, but really it
Yes.
opened it up. It opened it
Opened
up in
it up.
this incredible way. So you can teach these courses. So for the people who maybe they're in a country that you don't go to, I know you go to a lot of countries teaching in person, but
Yes.
will you teach the same courses online that you do in person?
Yes, they're exactly the same information. And what I say, well, some organizations, I go where organizations ask me to come, and some organizations, they want a 5-day course and some a 3-day course. In my 5-day course, everyone in 3 or 5-day courses get the same information. The 5-day course tends to have more time to practice.
Right.
Because also there's a lot of practice. I want everybody to put this into action and not just me jabbering away for
Yeah.
days and days, that I want everyone to experience their abilities.
So with your mentorships with that, I know one thing that I do a lot in some of the mentorships that I do for mediumship is you go and you have your mentorship meeting and you learn and you kind of go back and forth, but then the teacher kind of pairs you up with people to practice with. Is there a practice component that you have people do when
Oh
they're
yeah, that's one.
mentoring with?
Practice, practice, practice. Yes. And I ask people now pair off, even on if I'm doing a Zoom course,
Mhm.
you can do breakout sessions.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of practice with people that you don't know. And so it's wonderful. You're both working together. And people love that. They're terrified about it at first, but they go, wow, this is pretty good. This is great. I
Well,
was accurate.
it's such a good way to do it because I think it takes some of the pressure off because if there are people who already are a student that you don't have to convince them of what you're doing. And so you're working with someone who's open to the information. And so you don't feel quite as much pressure and you're both just practicing.
Just to see what happens. Yes, let's just see what happens. I don't think I answered your question though either, is that I have recorded all of these courses as well. So you can get them on my website too if you can't get to a live in-person one.
So that's great. So if someone wants to just come up and purchase a course and they can't do all the lives, they're on the
Yeah.
website and you can get all the information that you're talking
Oh
about.
yeah, you're actually with the whole course, and it's when I'm teaching a course, so you hear other students asking questions. So it's just like you're sitting there with other students in a course, and you can get it for 6 months or a lifetime, either one.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yes,
I
yeah.
I had something come up yesterday and I want to get your take on this because I think this is sort of an interesting conversation. And it's sort of about, I don't know that I would characterize this as being like an ascension symptom, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on if you've thought about like ascension symptoms or like physical changes that people may experience as their vibration is changing a little bit.
Mm.
I've had some very strange physical sensations, but I'll give you the rundown really quick. I ended up having a reading yesterday with someone who came very highly recommended. I always love hearing about someone. I love experiencing other people's work. Like, how are they working? What are they seeing? I just enjoy it. And so I had a session with this woman yesterday. Now, I'm going to rewind back to the first time I went to the Arthur Finley College. I woke up in the middle of the night and with these like electrical pains going down my legs. And I didn't think
Oh,
anything of it. I thought, wow, the energy is really high here. Like there's a lot to wake me up. Thought nothing of it. And so I periodically would have that for 6 months, this very strange electrical pain. And then I got scared and I thought, I should have this checked out. Like this could be something serious. And so I had 3 MRIs, I had nerve conduction tests, blood tests, nothing came back. My hunch was it was something sort of energetic, something perhaps spiritual that was happening. And now since they have all calmed down, but a week ago I had it happen again. So I had this reading with this woman yesterday and I forgot all about it. And she said, and they want me to tell you your health is just fine. And she said, you know why they want to say that? And I'd kind of forgotten, but I did have this other
oh,
scare a week before.
yeah.
And I said, oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, I had this weird thing happen. And I felt like it was energetic. And she said, what's happening is your guides, they're working with you and they don't understand the discomfort it's bringing you. They don't quite get it. And so you just need to tell them to not work with you in that way, to be gentler, to be softer, that they're working with you. Have you had anything like that where there's people can be having physical experiences working with the unseen realms?
Oh, yes, a lot. Here's
Okay.
one of the clues. Here's one of the clues uh, to be aware that it's probably an interaction with the non-physical world is they'll say what you said. I've been to doctors, I've gone to clinics, I've gone to, many people say, I've gone to, the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, which are famous in the US, and nobody can find anything. That should be that. Well, it could be multiple things. It could be the guides are actually working with you. It could be that you are reliving a trauma in the past life. There's all kinds. I'm just giving you a couple
Yeah.
different options there. All kinds of um, something underneath it. But I always go like that, like a siren going off, is when medical field cannot find anything. Well, there's something happening, so it's almost always some level, some detail about the non-physical realms. And yours is a beautiful story.
Yeah, well, and I felt so much, it was so nice to kind of have that validated and she
Yeah.
said, look, you need to tell them to work with you in a different way because it's frightening you, and that's not okay. Like you shouldn't be frightened by it. And they don't quite have an understanding that you're having this experience because like you talked about time with how they perceive time, like tell me now, not at some point in the future, that they don't have
Yeah.
an understanding of time the way we do. Maybe they don't quite understand our physical experience how we do. And so I'm not sure. I was just curious your take on that. If
Oh,
you've
very much.
experienced that.
Yes. Yeah, very much. So, yeah, that's my example. Now, let me add this, when we communicate with our guides or even the deceased, we have to use short and to the point statements or questions to them, and be careful with your words because every word that we think or every word that we say out loud is an electrical spurt of energy. So if you're help me, that's one of my famous things to not say to your guides, oh, help me, please. Do you see how vague that is? If you really think, oh, help me, please. So you can notice that. But then notice if you say, I am having electrical pain going up my legs. It is painful to me. Stop giving me that signal in a painful way. Do you see that's more than just help me? Yeah, see, so because if you think of every thought that you and I are saying, every thought that we're having, and it goes out to your viewers, is more than just a word. It's an electrical signal that goes through our body everywhere and up and down our legs, through our body, our energy field now into the world.
Yeah. So just be very clear with them and
Clear. To
concise.
the point. Yes, yes. Not
That's
vague. Because they can only respond to the electrical signal that we put out. So if we put out vague, well, they will be vague. But if you put out a really high, very detailed signal to them, then they can match
they can
also.
just be clear. And the
Yes.
topic of, if you've heard of this term, it's a little new agey, like ascension symptoms. People will talk about sort of feeling certain things in their body as they're shifting their energy. Is that something that's come up for you at all?
Well, but it's true because we are eternal souls first. And you know what I would add to that is really everybody talks about their aura and are you seeing the colors in your aura and things like that. But what I don't ever hear people talking about, and I'd love to hear your thought about it, is our aura is actually our eternal soul because we're non-physical spirit beings, even though we're lugging around a physical body. And so I'd love to talk to people about understanding our aura as it's our soul energy that we're perceiving, really.
So this is such an important topic to me. So I'm so glad that
Right.
we're having this.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
feel like there is this that now this isn't to um like bypass your body, but I feel as if we're so attached to only being the body. And so we identify in this way as I am just this physical body without any awareness that we are so much more. And so for me, it's this shifting of your awareness of, yes, I am a body, but feeling into this field that is your eternal self and
Love it.
having this experience of being this much larger being of I'm not saying I don't want to be this body. I love this body. I love experiencing this world through this body. And I also love experiencing this experience through my soul. And so
Yeah.
reaching out and becoming the soul that you are even more while you're in the body.
Yes. You said it beautifully. You more beautiful than I could ever come up with. It's
I doubt that.
lovely. No, we are eternal. We are eternal. This is only a small portion of our eternal being that we are.
And it feels as if we're at this point that's been building for a long time where like you're suddenly having doctors and Western medical people come in for training to you to understand that this understanding is really spreading, that we are so much more and there's so much more potential and possibility within our beings that we ever dared to imagine. And lights are beginning to light up all over the globe.
It truly, truly, that is, and I love it. There's a transformation happening.
Well, and so with that, and as there is this changing, the physical body could have like these symptoms or changes that
Mm.
as you're tapping into your soul more, that would there's this energy flow that happens between the physical and the non-physical so that your body could feel off kilter in certain ways and integrate and
Mm.
recalibrate and all of those things that when people talk about having certain symptoms, that could be very much just part of this transformation that's happening.
Oh, very much so. The location in our physical body will give us another level of information. It's like one of the simple is if somebody has struggles with, oh, they'll say the side of their neck and the shoulders, or one shoulder or the other. That our in the English language at least, our we have phrases that we're actually talking about this mind, body, non-physical experience. And so in our wording, somebody will say, oh, he's always in pain here on his shoulders because he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders. Well, literally, many of people carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and so they have their physical body is sending them signals. A lot of times it's a signal of what's going on.
So let's say that you were working with, if more than a year ago when you were working with someone one-on-one, would you begin to work with that feeling for them of carrying the weight of the world to start releasing that belief that they're holding there?
I want to give information first, and I want to make sure everyone realizes this is we intuitives do not need to pick up, and that can happen, but there's no reason for us to pick up our clients' energies, their traumas, and because many, many, many practitioners are lugging the weight of their clients with them.
I'd love for
We
you to
have,
talk about, I hear this a lot. I'd love for you, and you
yeah,
probably teach some energetic hygiene, I'm assuming, or
yes,
practices to not take on I mean, if you're carrying around your history of
yes.
your clients within this field, it's going to interfere with your ability to work with people and be clear.
Yes, if you know deeply, as a practitioner, if you know deeply about your client, even though you just met them, we are interconnecting our energy fields together. Like you and I right now are interconnecting our fields together, and we must disconnect that. And it doesn't mean we stop the relationship. A lot of people don't want to do this because I've had someone who actually passed on who was a very, very well-known, famous medium. And I said, you're still tied in with every person you've ever seen. And I want you to do these steps that I have. And she said, I can't because I'll lose all my clients. And I said, I've been doing it for years. I'm healthy as can be. And I'm doing these steps and I haven't lost any clients, but I could not, get her to do it. And she's passed on now. But yes, because we're really tapping in with each other. Everyone is tapping in with people that we care about. People, we pass through in the grocery who somebody's crying over the carrots or something, that, yeah, we're interconnecting all the time. So we have to cleanse our energy field because it's our soul and stay healthy ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's so. I mean, we all have our different practices for the things we do to maintain
Yeah.
our energy. But I do think that's very important. For me, one of the best, I go for a daily walk. My daily walk is just a really, for me, really important part of my day. And it's funny, it has been since I was like 13.
Oh
Before
my
I knew,
goodness, see?
before I knew
Yeah.
any of this, it was just intuitively, I just wanted to walk. I just wanted to get outside by myself, mostly, and just walk in
Mhm.
nature. Because for me, that's very healing and grounding.
Well, before you turned on the recording, you even shared that with me about, we did had a moment there to get prepared for this recording. And you brought that up, and I don't know if you even are aware of it. You brought that up about the walking and moving on the earth.
I hadn't even realized. So Tina gave me a
Mhm.
great advice. So one thing that my listeners don't know is with all of my guests before we begin recording, I do a little meditation to just connect and connect to the earth and the cosmos and just really open up our fields to allow a transmission of what will ever be most healing and impactful for our listeners. And she said, "Oh, you should have recorded that." And I said, "I never even considered it. Thank you, Tina. I should do that."
Yes, because your viewers will do that with you to prepare for your next interview.
I'm doing that next time.
Good, good. Oh, that's great.
So, Tina, thank you. Okay, I would love to talk about this next book of yours that you've has it been released or is it about to be released?
It will be released in print October 14th we're in 2025, if anybody watches this,
Okay.
in the future. So it comes out next month in our current time frame, October 14th.
October
It
14th.
can be it can be pre-ordered now, which would be wonderful if anyone would want to pre-order it. Yeah, they
Is the
wanted
best
to.
way to, is that Amazon or your website? How do you pre-order your
It's
book?
on yeah, it's Amazon. And
Okay.
it's on all of the other areas, but Amazon's the only one I know that can be pre-ordered. That's the only one I am aware of from my publisher.
Okay. So, tell us a little bit about this new book coming out.
Well, the title is Healing Ghosts, Haunted Places, and Non-Human Beings, because that's basically what I teach. What's wonderful here, what's wonderful about it is my main goal is to take the fear of the non-physical world out of people. So I work my hardest to make or help people realize they are a spirit being. And so we should be interacting or can with non-physical beings. It's very, like we've been talking about, very, very natural. So that's my main goal, to take the fear away from this, because people are scared to death of waking up in the night and there stands a ghost.
Yeah.
I never, in fact, I put ghost in the title because almost everybody calls a deceased person a ghost. But I never do, but I put it in the title because almost everybody says, "Oh, I saw a ghost last night," or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's, the main things that I'm doing. Here's one point that I never bring up about this book is I asked because I do have long-term people that are on, since I'm not seeing individuals, you can go to my site and there's, I don't know, 11 or 12 people right now who do readings and healings, medical intuition and mediumship. And one specializes in horses too, and another one
Oh,
specializes in small animals. But anyway, so you can get people to do a reading with you who are trained with me. So I don't know why I went off on that, but oh, I know why. And I asked them if they would share with me some very real stories that they've had with their clients or in different environments and stuff. So I've added their stories into my book too, because I thought if, the readers hear this from other people and not just me, how you can notice and to help deceased people no matter where you're at. There's one story about mentoring students in a library, and there was a spirit person confused and needed help. But what I teach in there is we can become the healers for the deceased, for haunted places, which just means that there's a deceased people there that many times don't even know that they're dead. And then even non-human beings, because that's very, very real. But I want to take the fear out of all of this and realize that we can be the healers for all these levels and help them, even non-human beings. It's the icing on the cake to help deceased people, the land and in buildings, and non-human beings to transform.
All the beings. I mean, it's a very fascinating subject, the non-human beings. That's a whole
Yeah.
podcast right there.
And not to be afraid. Yes.
And not to be afraid. I mean, I
Oh,
do think that
yes.
there's love is the undercurrent of the universe. So I think if you have that belief that we live in a loving universe, that can also help to remove some of the fear. And I feel like if you have this very strong belief that is crystallized into you, that there's dark forces and dark, frightening things, you begin to see those things and look for those things and almost manifest in a way.
Draw them.
The
Draw them, yeah.
fear, the fear of that. I don't spend too much time talking about those things. It's not really because of fear, but I'm just not interested. I'm interested in expansion in other areas. But I'm fascinated to hear what you write about healing on these
Yes.
different levels. And I love that you're just saying, well, hang on a second. You're a spirit. So let's not forget that. Like, they're not
Yeah.
so other, they're not so different because that's a non-physical being. But I mean, science can prove that you're non-physical. You're 99.99999% empty space and energy. So
Yes.
you're a spirit too.
Yes.
You're just
Yes.
perceiving
Absolutely.
yourself as something different.
Absolutely. You're giving me goosebumps.
So, so let's all work together in these realms.
And it's the icing on the cake to help a deceased person who's troubled, who has not crossed over. Icing on the cake is you will see in your mind's eye or with your eyes open their transformation into heaven or into the spirit realms and brought peace to them.
I have to tell you a story about this. I know we're probably coming up to the edge. I've kept you on for a long time here, but I do have an interesting story. I've probably told this on the podcast before, but this was a really interesting experience talking about a non-physical being. So I'll say it as fast as I can. I had moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was living in this very tiny little like adobe house. And it was right above the Mormon, I'm not Mormon, but above the Mormon temple in this area that all these little houses had been Mormon temple workers had built these little homes to build the Mormon temple. So my boyfriend and I, who's now my husband, I moved from California. We moved into this little house, darling neighborhood. And we drank coffee and we drank wine. And I would notice now in the Mormon church, you don't drink coffee and you don't drink wine. That's just part of their religion. And I would notice like maybe we'd each have a glass of wine at night. And I would notice occasionally in the morning, what should be half a bottle, there'd be this little tiny bit left. And then I would accuse him, like, did you go drink wine by yourself? And he swore up and down, I did not touch, like, we went to bed together. I'm like mystified. And by the way, we didn't have a ton of money at the time. So I'm like, where is this wine going? It was a kind of like a treat to have this glass of wine. And it happened to, occasionally, or we'd make coffee in the morning and then there would be like coffee left in. Same thing would happen. I'd come home and instead of the coffee that I had left, that maybe I'm going to drink some old coffee, a tiny, it wasn't all poured out, this tiny little bit. And I had this sense of some being in the house. So then we get a kitten. We bring this kitten in the house. And I had to work And I would come home and the door would be open. And I thought, oh my gosh, someone has a key to the house. So I
Mhm.
went to the landlord. We were renting this house. I mean, someone keeps on opening my doors. I mean, I'm fastidious, but making sure everything's locked before I leave. I'd come home and the door would be open. Or unlocked, not open yet. And so the landlord said, I don't think anyone would do that, but of course we'll change the locks. So I had the locks changed. I knew the two of us had a key. So I got this kitten and I came home from work one day and the kitten was outside. And this was a baby. And so I came home like, that is it. I mean, so I had to, I knew there was a spirit in the house. And I just said, this is a baby cat. You cannot leave these doors unlocked. I mean, this kitten could get hit by a car or killed. Do not, I was very clear. Do not
You were
open
very
these doors.
clear. I was going to put out. Yes.
Do not open these doors again. So never happened again. So everything was fine. The wine kind of tapered down. And I felt like we got into a rhythm with, and I do have this sense this may have been like maybe a temple worker who was in the house still. And one night I got woken up in the middle of the night and it was a goodbye. And I sat up in bed and I watched this ball of light go up through where the wall and the ceiling meet. And it was like, I'm going to give you the gift of watching me like leave the space. It was so beautiful. I'll never forget it. It was such a beautiful experience.
That was beautiful. That's a beautiful story. And it's very real. See, what I hope even your viewers realize, this is real. These things are
Real.
real.
These things are real. So you're going to teach people how to work with maybe some spirits that would love some healing and some help and shifting
Yes,
dimensions.
yes, yes. And many deceased people truly do not realize that they've left their physical body. They truly don't realize that. And you know what I point out in your story, you actually had that what I call the icing on the cake to watch that ascension. That's beautiful.
It was, you know what? It was such a gift to be woken up to say like I'm going to say goodbye to you now because I felt like we came into a relationship. I felt like
Yes.
this spirit was not super thrilled with us in the beginning. We were in there, heathens drinking
Mhm.
wine and coffee, and and, and then came to
Yep.
accept us, realized maybe they're not so bad.
I think your cat helped.
The cat probably, the cat probably did.
Mhm.
Tina, before we end up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with my audience?
Oh, wow. Just to realize that the non-physical realm is real and it's nothing to be afraid of. They will listen to you. They will do what you ask them to do if you truly mean it. Your story is a beautiful ending to that, to show that you realized what was happening, what was causing it, and you worked with that spirit person and they hadn't crossed over. He was still living in the house. And then you saw that transformation into what most people call heaven. And that's the icing on the cake. And
Yeah.
there's nothing to be afraid of.
I love this like removal of fear, that this is all just so beautiful and so natural and
Natural.
something that we all can be, that we're all, of course, are a part of already. We already are a part of all of this. So Tina, I'm going to say again, the best way to find you, your courses, your books all on Amazon, but it's www.tinazion.com to find courses, to work with her, to learn to become a medical intuition, to learn medical intuition, mediumship, and there's even astral projection, remote viewing. You do it all. You're a one-stop shop.
Apparently. Apparently. Well, and I tell everybody too that it's not just on Amazon. My books are in other sources, Barnes and Noble and any other way. And they're
Yeah.
also an ebook, an audiobook too, and
Yeah.
print. Yeah.
Audible. I've listened on I
Oh,
think they're
yeah.
on, yeah. So if you're like me, although I have 7,000 books lining up all over my house that I just hope I can put my hand on one day and just like absorb the knowledge. I mostly listen now. So lots of ways to get her beautiful material. And really, truly, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed listening to her books. They're very easy. They're books that are I've listened to very several sort of spiritual books. Hers are quite easy to listen to, and they just make a lot of sense. They're not difficult to kind of parse through, is what I would say.
People tell me I don't have any fluff, that I just say it clear and to the point.
Yeah, it's no fluff, but they're easy. They're
Well,
they're very easy to listen to. Like the books went very quickly for me. So
oh,
I'm
thank
yeah,
you.
I'm excited. That meant I was kept on going back and listening, right? Because I was, kept my interest. I have some books in my Audible that I'm like, oh, I'll listen to 20 minutes and I'll come back next year and listen to a little bit more. But yours I got through very fast, which says a lot that they were very interesting books. So I am so
Thank you.
honored to have
Thank
you as a
you.
guest. It's always so fun when there's someone whose work you just admire and then you get to have a conversation. So I'm really, really just deeply grateful that you would take your time to come on and have this conversation.
Well, let me say also, and to your viewers too, is I am interviewed a lot, and this one with you, and I don't say this to everybody, was very precious, and I thank you.
Oh, that means the world to me. That means
Thank
the
you.
world. Tina, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for being
Thank
with
you,
us.
everybody.
We'll see you next time.